what's going on? Figured I would do a video today. Just got up not long ago. Tried to make this video yesterday, but the flies and the mosquitoes and all of that kept attacking us. And it wasn't just attacking me this time, it was attacking her too. Currently, she's not in here. She is over at that place. Nope, not that place. That place. She's over there somewhere. She went to go get some breakfast and stuff. So she'll probably be back shortly. But in the meantime, I figured I'd make this video. So today is August the 14th. At least I think it's August the 14th. Should be theoretically August the 14th. August the 14th, 2015, I burned myself up a little bit, just a hair. And normally on August the 14th, I re-celebrate my birthday because the reality is that's not just the day that I was supposed to die, that's the day I was also reborn, more or less. Now, I don't believe in all that reborn stuff too much, but when certain things happen to you, you kind of change your mind. So I figured I would tell y'all the story about how I burned myself up. Now, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but my arm is completely messed up like that. Yeah. So I know the question is going to come up eventually. What happened to your arm? Because I get that all the time. So let's start from the beginning, I guess. So what happened was so during that time I was still traveling somewhat, but I was traveling just back and forth between here and North Carolina because I had a little landscaping business and I was cutting grass. I would cut grass in DC for 2 days, and I would cut grass in Virginia for 2 days, and I would go down to North Carolina and cut grass for 1 day. And then I would come back up and repeat. Basically every week, that's what I did. And I'd keep my lawnmowers on the back of my camper. And it was pretty cool how I had it set up. It was not bad. But I had a little tiny 76 Dodge camper, and it had a platform on the back, and it was small. It was really small, but it was so cool. And so I'm riding around. I have my lawnmowers on the back of this camper, and it's just the coolest thing in the world, in my opinion. And so I guess I got big, maybe a little too big. And I said, well, I can get my box truck running because I had a box truck that had sat for 12 years, and this was 12 years before. And I just had it for storage mainly because I didn't have nowhere to keep my stuff, which is a whole nother video. So I just used it for storage and keep my tools and stuff in, and my welder and all. And so I had the brilliant idea that I was going to get this thing running and driving, and I mean, it didn't have no miles on it. It was like an 86 GMC box truck, and it literally had like 60,000 miles on it. And it just, all it did its whole life was sit. It sat when my grandfather got it. It sat when I got it. It just sat. And I said, well, damn, that's not a bad idea. That's what I'll do. I'll just get that running. So one day I got up early in the morning, August the 14th, 2015. I got up about this time, about 8 o'clock, and I left, and I went over to the yard where my grandfather, he used to have trash trucks and dump trucks, and I went over to the yard where we kept the trucks at and stuff, and my box truck was parked between a wall and a dumpster. So I had to squeeze between the wall and the dumpster to get to the front of the truck, basically, which was covered in woods. because I had trees growing up to the truck from it sitting so long. But I knew it ran, so it wasn't a big deal. So I was out there and I was feeding the gas through the throttle body. Throttle body is the thing that sits on top of the engine, kind of replaces the carburetor, mixes the gas and the air together. It's got a little valve on it that opens and closes. But basically, it's like a carburetor, but a fuel injected version. And so I was feeding it through the throttle body. Now, not once did it cross my mind to check to see if the throttle body was functional as far as the valve opening and closing. I was just feeding the gas. Wasn't thinking. Wasn't just whatever. I just wanted to see if it fired. If it fired, then I would do whatever I had to do to get it out of the corner, and we'd go from there. Um, at the time that I let it sit, it was a brand new fuel pump in it. Brand new. I put it in there and then I parked it, literally. Uh, I put the fuel pump in it so I could get it to where it was. So I'm thinking that maybe if I'm feeding this thing gas, the fuel pump will kick in and it'll start up. It did. I got it running. Needless to say that when I did get it running, because I was sitting under the hood of the thing, um, I was sitting under the hood and I had a cup of gas in one hand and I was hitting the starter button because there's a little button you can buy to hook up to the starter so you can turn the engine over. I was hitting the button with the other hand. I'm feeding it and I'm feeding it and it's turning and it's starting up, but it's not running for more than a few seconds. So I'm still feeding it and I'm still feeding it. Well, eventually it caught. Okay. And I was feeding it and I opened that throttle up to give it a little bit of gas because the fuel pump had actually started to kick in and it was burning that old gas on a, so I went on ahead, hit the throttle, and it backfired. And so the first backfire, um, basically what happened was I tried to block my face. So I tried to do one of these. But what they don't tell you is that fire likes to go around your arm to burn your face. And all of this was burned up. The whole, everything. I was, toasted, man. I mean, I was gone. There was no question about it. Now, mind you, this is just the first backfire. I have seen fire from the inside out. And not too many people alive can say that. I have breathed it. I have tasted. Yeah, I did that. Um, from the inside out. So when that first backfire happened, okay, my arms were greasy, my hands was greasy and full of gas. Okay, so I'm blocking like this. That fire went up over my arm and got my face. So then it caught the gasoline, a little bit of gasoline that was on my arm on fire. So at this point, my arm is burning, and I'm not even thinking about it burning. I'm just like, okay, it backfired, and I'm not thinking it's going to happen again. At this point, I'm just trying to jump out from under the hood of the truck, like, damn. So the second backfire, because it was the second one, caught the cup of gas in my hand, in my right hand, and that was no fun. And yeah, I took and dropped the cup of gas on both of my legs. Now, when you're on fire, when you're on fire, okay, the first thing that comes to mind is to put the fire out. That's the first thing that you're going to think of is to put the fire out when you're on fire. Now, I thought about this. I've given this good thought. I've had it thought through and everything. I said, well, the first initial reaction is, holy I'm on fire. But that's the initial reaction. And so when you realize that you're on fire and both of your hands have become torches, you say to yourself, I'm going to put the fire out. So the first thing that comes to mind is liquid. You need some sort of liquid to put the fire out. No problem. I have a gas can right here, full of gas. That's liquid. Let's put the fire out. Now, you're not thinking logically at the time to say, hey, this is gasoline. Shay, don't put the fire out with the gasoline because that's not going to help the situation any. That's just going to burn you up even further. No, you're not thinking that. You're thinking, put the fire out with liquid. That's what you're thinking. And that's what I was thinking. Stop, drop, and roll probably wouldn't have worked, seeing that the truck was parked between a dumpster and a wall. Literally, I had 2 feet of space to move, if that. I don't even think it was that much. So, after trying to put the fire out with more gasoline, which didn't work at all, when I was laying there on the ground dying, basically, uh, you know how people say life flashes before your eyes and you think about this person and you think about that person and you think about, no, you know I'm going to keep it straight with you. The only thing I was thinking about was my ass burning up. That's the only thing that was crossing my mind at the time. I wasn't thinking about life. I wasn't pondering why is this going on. None of that was going through my mind. I was thinking about the fire at hand while I was laying there on the ground burning up dying. Now, in the process of this, and I'm not a religious person very much really, but I mean I believe something's out there, I just don't know what, but in the process of this, I'm on the ground burning. I hear this voice say, get up. And I'm like, get up? What the heck you mean, get up? Put the fire out. Like, help, And I heard this voice say, get up again. And I said, okay. I looked around, I didn't see nobody. I said, alright, well, this is taking a long time. I guess I better go ahead and get up. So now at this point, I'm still on fire. I'd come to the conclusion that burning up takes a long time. So I decided not to burn up. And I got up and I'm still on fire. And by this time, my grandfather come over and was trying to put the fire out. And I was smoldering. There's no question. I mean, everything. I had third-degree burns on 70% of my body. And third-degree burns on 70% of my body. It pains me just to even say that because just going back to that day is really something. But anyway, so yeah, I had managed to burn everything but my gonads off. Thank God. And we called the fire department, but they couldn't find the address because the address wasn't on the fence where we kept the truck at, which is another thing. If your address ain't clear, you need to make your address clear on your house just in case there's ever a fire or anything so they can find you. So they couldn't find me. So at this point I said, man, you know what? Screw this. They can't find me. I'll drive myself to the hospital. Mind you, when I tell you I was burned up, like both legs, my left arm, my face, my neck, there's still remnants. Like, if you pay close attention, there's still remnants. If you ever wonder why I'm limping, that's probably why. Yeah, I was done. I was done. So I jumped in my truck, my other truck. I jumped in the truck, cut the air conditioner on full blast, cut the radio all the way up, put it in gear, looked both ways, yanked it out of the yard sideways, and got down the street to the stop sign and said, wait a minute. This hurts. I was like, this hurts just a little too much to be trying to yeah, I'm not gonna make it. That's not gonna happen. And right as I realized that this was strike, just a little bit, it was smarking a little bit, hurting just a hair. That's when the ambulance pulled up behind me and they pulled me out of the truck. And now, mind you, I was going off about my truck, the box truck burning up, because uh, I needed that. And so my focus was not on me being burned up. I was too mad at the time to focus on me being burned up. I was more focused on my box truck burning up than I was on me being burned up. Which, believe it or not, probably saved my life. Probably saved my life. So the we went. They put me in the ambulance, and I could tell by the look on the guy's face that I'm supposed to be dead. I could look at his face, and I asked him. I said, "I'm gonna die." He said, "No, no, you're not gonna die. You're gonna be just fine." And I know a BS artist when I see one, and he was pretty good, but no, I knew I was done. I could just tell by the look on his face and the look on everybody else's face because, yeah, I wasn't supposed to be here. It just was that simple. I'd post a picture in the thumbnail, but it's kind of gruesome. So, yeah, the fact that I even look like I look right now is pretty amazing because I did not look like this. I did not look like this, and it was bad. And so we get to the hospital, and they cut my legs open right in front of me. No anesthesia, no nothing. They just cut them right open. Um, and I pass out. Then when I come to, I was in surgery, and I don't know if I should tell this part of the story or not because it's going to be really bad. Because I was in anesthesia, and there was a guy in a turban, and I was strapped down to a table. And I probably shouldn't tell this part of the story, but just know that I had a little problem, and I went off in there, and they came and shot me up with something real fast, and calm me down because I didn't know where I was at. I didn't know, they said that there was an accident. I'm like, accident? Ain't no accident. I'm just fine. Get me up off the table. What the hell? So it goes way deeper than that. But if you ever see me in person, then I'll talk about it then because some people ain't gonna react to that too good. Anyway, so that happened, and in the process of that happening, I was in the hospital for 2 months. And I couldn't move, couldn't do nothing, couldn't nothing, just nothing, a whole lot of nothing for 2 months. In the process of that, they told me that they were going to have to cut both my legs off, and they were going to have to cut both my legs off, and you know, my veins were totally done, and it was a lot. Um, and so at this point, it was like I was a month into it. I was like, you know what? Cut them off. Get me out of here. I don't want to be in here no more. Um, at this point, I'm just trying to figure out a way to get out of the hospital because it was worse than being in prison. Um, I couldn't move. I couldn't do nothing. Couldn't go nowhere. Couldn't nothing. I couldn't stand up. I had people coming in there to visit me, and I was fine with that. But when they were coming in visiting me, they were talking about how miserable it was outside, and that it was raining, or that it was snowing, or that it was hot, or it was too cold. And in my mind, the whole time I'm going, I wish I could go outside and be in the hot, be in the cold, or be in the rain. I wish I could feel the rain on my skin or the snow on my skin. I wish I could feel the sun on my skin or anything, the whole time. and I was in there for 2 months. Now, one day, I don't know. See, when I was in there, during the time I was in there, I snapped because of everything that was going on, and I was pretty determined that I was going to experience the sun. So I watched, and I watched every day to where the people would change shifts in the hospital and things, and what time it was when they did and all. Now I knew there was this woman across the hall from me who had a wheelchair, and I knew that my arm strength was pretty good. And I also knew that if I could make it to this wheelchair, I could make it outside. That's what I knew. And this is just a little side story here, but I went and I got out the bed. This was, I couldn't walk, you know. I couldn't really do nothing, but I got out the bed and I made my way across the hall where nobody was looking. And I got in her wheelchair and I looked at her and I said, "I'm sorry, I'll bring it back later." And I stole a wheelchair and I was off. And I went on down the hall and I was getting it, man. I mean, I was getting it. I went right past the nurses station. Nurses came out. They looked. They said, "Is that Mr. Thomas?" And by the time they realized what was going on, I was down by the swinging door. Somebody had opened that door up just in time. I made it through them swinging doors and they closed. I yanked that one wheel around in that wheelchair right in front of the elevator. The elevator door, I lied to you not, was just opening. I got in that elevator. As the doors were closing, here comes 3 or 4 nurses chasing me down the hallway. They made it to the elevator just in time for me to say, and I went, I went down on the elevator. I went out to I had like a outside part, and I rode myself right outside, and I was so exhausted until I got outside. I was just so happy to be outside. I just fell asleep in a stolen wheelchair, and they came and got me. They took me back to my room, and then they put the little alarm on the bed so they know when I got out the bed. Not that it helped any, because the reality is I couldn't get back out of the bed even if I wanted to at that point. I was just determined that I wanted to feel what it was like outside for the first time, and God knows when. Um, because it's been so long. Um, so then, what else happened? Anyway, they told me that I'd never walk again, even if I kept my legs. Well, they tried to tell me that. Because initially I said, well, if they're going to have to be cut off, cut them off. And the one doctor came and was like, well, look, we're going to try to save one of them, but I don't know if we're going to be able to save the other one. So they did whatever they did, and they messed up pretty bad. And long story short, I ended up with both my legs, but then they said even if I do walk, it's going to be difficult for me to walk. The one doctor told me that I wouldn't walk. And when he said that, I kind of was like, okay, cool. Am I getting out of here? Because I'd been in there, and it was like solitary confinement. You couldn't go nowhere. You couldn't do nothing, you know. Um, and mind you, now, on a side note, the whole time I'm in here, I'm losing my business. I'm losing money. Um, the girl I was dealing with at the time was messing around with some guy. um, I mean, it was a lot going on. It was a lot going on, and the funny thing is, the people that you don't think are in your corner are the people who are in your corner. The people that you think are in your corner, they're not going to be there. Um, it's amazing how that works. My dad, who, I mean, me and him, we cool. Don't get me wrong, we cool. But he hadn't really come around much since I was probably about 18, 19, 20. He was around like every other day, which was crazy to me. That was just unbelievable because I never expected that. And then, like certain people that should have been there weren't there at all, you know. And even when they were there, it wasn't about them, it wasn't about nothing. So when something happens to you, you really learn who your friends are. You really do. So, anyway, where was I? I'm sorry I'm botching this all up, really, but. So, in the process of being in the hospital, they told me I'd never walk. Well, one day, I got mad because the doctor told me that I couldn't eat something. And I was hungry because they were barely feeding me. I was hungry. So, the doctor come in and said something about I couldn't eat something, and I said, "Oh, really? I can't? I can't?" I jumped up out of the bed and got in his face, and I said, "Look here, I'm going to eat something today." And then we looked down at my legs, and I looked down at my legs, he looked down at my legs, we looked at each other. He said, "You're standing." I said, "Yeah, I know." And then I fell back into the bed. And that was about the point where I said, well, if I could do that, then I can walk, you know. And so fast forward a little ways. Um, I got out of the hospital eventually, and then 2 months and a couple days that I had been in the hospital, I couldn't walk. I couldn't really do much of anything really, and I got out of the hospital and I went home, and I went to my grandfather's. When I went there, like I don't know, I had to relearn how to walk. Um, I had an old truck that was a stick, and I was determined that I was going to drive my truck. And I really liked that truck a lot. So I was determined that I was going to drive that truck, and if it wasn't for that truck, I probably wouldn't be able to walk. Because I had to get to the truck, which was at the street from the house, which was a good little distance for me to make it with not walking. And then I had to drive it with no legs. That was entertaining. That's a whole nother story for when I get to that truck on when I do the thing with the stuff and the thing. And yeah, when I start talking about the cars, I'll talk about that truck and I'll tell you about that story about how I drove it with one leg, how I drove a clutch with one leg. So anyway, I say all of that to say that, and that's not the only things that's happened to me. I've had cancer twice. I've been burned up. I've been electrocuted twice. Um, I've been through it. There's a lot more than that. A lot more than that. But been stabbed and all kind of stuff. But I say all of that to say I'm still here. I'm still here. When they told me I wasn't going to walk again, I didn't let that stop me from being here. Because the thought crossed my mind, hey, I ain't going to have no legs, so what the hell is the point in living? And then the thought also crossed my mind is that I'm really good with a welder, and you probably shouldn't mess with a legless mechanical engineer who will mechanically engineer some bionic legs or something. And don't tell me I ain't got no legs and I can't walk, because I'm going to make it happen. But I say that to say that depression is a pain in the butt. And if nobody knows that better than me, I know a lot more than what I'm willing to say on this camera and trying to keep it together. Um, Despite being burned up, despite being stabbed up, despite being pulled over by the police every day, despite being cancer twice, despite all of everything, I still keep going. And I'm not saying that everybody should be that tough, but I'm saying keep going. Because just because it's bad don't mean that it's got to be bad. That don't mean that it's going to get better. I can't promise that, but if you keep going, there's always a chance that it might get better. You know what I mean? If you wake up tomorrow, then tomorrow might be a better day. So you got to keep going. And all things that are supposed to be will be at some point. Even if it ain't right away, just relax. It's coming. It's coming. It's not going to be bad all the time. Even though sometimes it is bad all the time, it's not going to stay that way. Eventually, something positive is going to happen sooner or later. And you got to believe that because, you know, the devil comes in many different varieties. Now, like I said, I ain't religious or nothing. Now, I don't do that whole thing much, but you gotta believe that tomorrow's gonna be a better day, even if it ain't gonna be a better day. You gotta keep on keeping on. You gotta keep on moving because there's been plenty of times where I've said maybe I should just give up. I had cancer once, and I don't want to fight it a second time. Maybe I don't want to fight it a third time, and I don't particularly want to fight it a third time, but I'm willing to try. You got to try. You got to try to get up every day. You got to try to keep on moving. And as long as you keep on moving, something might happen that's in your favor. Now, I'm walking. I'm walking. I don't know how long I'll be walking for. I walk with a limp, but I'm walking. And I run better and I can still dance. But now they told me I would never be able to do none of that again. But I am. I'm still here. So with that being said, I guess that's that for this video for now. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot more that really needs to be said, but it's kind of a rough day for me because I know that I'm not supposed to be here right now.